This is Entrepreneurs Get Visible, the podcast for people who want more impact, influence, and income. I'm Anna Parker-Naples, and I'll be sharing with you proven methods from leading entrepreneurs that help you get visible as an authority in your field. Because anything's possible when you get visible. Welcome to today's episode of Entrepreneurs Get Visible, which I am delivering live for you today. I'm joined today by someone who's kind of been side by side as I've grown my business over the last 5 years. I'm joined by my good friend, Sarah Cooke, who started in the online space, if you like, at a very similar point to me. So welcome to today's show, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So we met originally at an awards do hosted by Nicola Huelin. I never know, Nicola, how to say your surname, which was for Empower Mums in Business. And we both arrived kind of not knowing anyone or anything. And then we ended up doing a couple of courses and masterminds together, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, no, our paths kind of kept crossing and we kept bumping into each other, I think, at various different events. And yeah, and I kind of stayed in touch and realised that actually we were on quite similar paths, I think, business-wise.
And we actually don't live that far from each other, despite the fact we've only actually managed to get together once in person. I don't know if any of you out there have that. You know, someone that you're quite connected with is really close, but it still seems a virtual impossibility to get together in person. So
it seems to get harder, doesn't it?
It does seem to get harder, and let's all blame lockdown and kids, because that seems to be standard excuse for lack of social life. So you work with people to help them accelerate their business results. And my question to you is, what does that mean? What does it mean when you can accelerate your results?
Yeah, no, I think it sounds like a grand term, doesn't it? Accelerate your results. And I think it's something that so many people in business do want to do, is to kind of fast track things. They want to move forward as quickly as possible. Where I come from is that actually, if you look at both yourself personally, as well as what you want to achieve in business, so that combination of personal goals as well as business goals, actually, that's when the magic happens. And because our lives are so entwined with running, your own personal life as well as your own business, if something is off kilter, if something doesn't feel quite aligned, then it's going to hold you back. And that means you're not going to be able to accelerate your results. So for me, whatever happens in your personal life is going to affect your business. Whatever happens in your business is going to affect your personal life. And so when we're talking about accelerate your results, for me, it's taking probably a slightly more holistic approach and saying, actually, when you as a person, you as a CEO are performing at your optimal levels, that's when your business can really accelerate. That's when you can really start seeing the results in your business. And that might mean kind of different things for different people. We've all got different lifestyle setups, family, situations, different financial goals as well. So the version of success is different for everybody. And I think that's a really key point, is that, when we're in the online space, we can see other people talking about their overnight success. Actually, that for me doesn't really exist. That overnight success is a catalyst of everything that's happened over the last however many months, years of work, and really understanding and leaning into that. I think when you start getting into what enables you to accelerate your results, for me, there's an equilibrium between time, money, and lifestyle. And whatever you're trying to do, there has to be a balance across all of those things. So, if you are pushing for results really hard, you're working 24/7, that's going to have an impact on your lifestyle, whether that's health, your family, your relationships, whatever that is. And then that's not going to bring you joy in the way that you want to. So taking that slightly more holistic approach and actually really enjoying what you're doing within your business, working with the right people, having the right clients, but also recognizing your own energy, like your own health, and looking after that. So it's a combination of lots of things. And really for me, it's what I talk about is the healthy business, a future-proof, sustainable, profitable business, but actually done in a healthy way, in the sense that it's not causing you overwhelm. It's not causing you burnout. It's not causing health issues. So yeah, accelerate your results and really results in a true sense is something that lights you up, that gives you the financial return that you want to, gives that flexible freedom, gives you the choices as to who you work with, how you work, and what you do, really. So
we've talked about this a lot, how we see people we know quite well in the online space who are very unwell or have reached burnout or are not happy in their businesses. Yes, they might be achieving massive financial goals that some people would look at and say that's the ultimate success. But if they're doing that at a cost to themselves, to their health, to their mental well-being, to their family setup, to their relationships, is that really a win? I know for me personally, I've been very open with listeners on this show that I reached a point where I had so much pressure going on in my life that I've had to look at my own business. I've had to look at, well, what brings me joy? What do I want to do? What don't I want to do? What things am I doing in my business that doesn't need to be me at all, that I'm holding on for some reason? And how does that infiltrate the rest of my life? So as we go into 2022, I'm looking a lot at how do I have more joy and creativity in my personal life? Because if I open that side up to myself, then I'm taking the pressure off myself in my business. And I think that when people come into the online space, particularly, there's such a rush to achieve those badges of honor, to achieve that vision of overnight success, that they're going too hard, too fast. And that's where the problems kick in.
Definitely. And you can, our bodies are amazing. They can push really, really hard, but actually it comes to a point. And I think it's not, people can see the financial returns and not have a health impact. But I think as business owners, we're always faced with a number of crossroads and making those decisions. And there isn't a right or a wrong answer unless it feels, or the right answer is the one that feels most aligned to you. It's not about what other people are doing. And I think so many people come into the online space and feel like they need to do what other people are doing because that's what their version of success is. But actually, for me, it's about spending a bit of time and getting really clear on exactly what it is that you want and recognizing that that will change as you evolve, as your business evolves, and also as you personally evolve. I've got quite young children, but as they get older, that gives me more time back. That means I can run my business in a slightly different way. So it's important as well to have whatever those goals look like, to have that check-in with yourself on a regular basis, to act as a CEO, have those, times where, if you're achieving your financial goals, that's brilliant. But has that come at an expense of your health or your lifestyle or your relationships? And if it hasn't, great, continue doing the things that are working for you, like lean into your strengths. I think especially women, we're very good at being self-critical, being over-analytical, and we can put more pressure on ourselves. Whereas if we kind of go, actually, what is it that I really want? Getting really clear on that and then taking intentional steps forward on the things that are actually going to make a difference for you and for your business. For me, that's when the results come in because it is so individual.
So at what point then did you become aware that you had to reevaluate what was going on for you in terms of having a healthy business? Why did this become an important message for you?
Yeah, so I think, my journey kind of being in the corporate space for kind of over 15 years, hitting corporate burnout, having been a former athlete, really understanding the impact of my health and the choices that I make. But also I think there's a mindset piece in there as well. Like I've built up a lot of resilience over the last however many years. And I think really tuning into actually what is important to me. One of the reasons that I left the corporate space was that I had a horrific birth with my first child, coupled with corporate burnout, toxic work relationships going on. And that really led to me assessing what it is that I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it. And then even when I had, I evolved my business from becoming fully booked within about 5 months. So I retrained as a holistic health therapist and became fully booked very, very quickly. But that meant that had a knock-on effect on me losing flexibility, hitting an income ceiling, knowing that I needed to do something different. I am competitive. I've got an inner drive. I want to have, I want to see results. That's always in me. That's one of my strengths. But I'm also quite self-aware because of the things that I've been through. And I think it's just, there is sort of self-awareness, I suppose, is one of those really key things, really dialing into and not being afraid, not feeling like you have to apologize for the things that actually you want. And I spent many years of almost apologizing for wanting to be successful and to be a mum. And I think, not that I'm saying that you can necessarily have it all, but actually your version of all is different to everybody.
And it's up to you to create it. It's up to you to create it.
Yeah. So I think every time that I've kind of got to a crossroads of going, something doesn't feel quite right. What is that? Why, I'm working all the hours and that is having an expense on my family situation. How can I make my business different? And that was when I started introducing more online things, product businesses. And then I grew a really big product business off the back of that. And it became celebrity endorsed. It won loads of awards. but something wasn't feeling right. And I'm like, okay, let's dial into that. What is it that's not feeling right? It's because I wasn't able to help people. I wasn't getting that end user connection. And that for me personally is really important. So I ended up selling that business a couple of years ago and moving more into the kind of coaching, mentoring space. But also as part of that, recognizing that so many people coming into businesses, especially mums, especially women who are ambitious, especially if they've been in the corporate world or they've seen success in different spaces, suddenly running your own business becomes really hard because you've got however many hats that you have to wear. Plus you've got life that you're trying to juggle at the same time, trying to find some of your time for yourself. And that can feel quite overwhelming. So I think it's just, as you said, kind of being aware of what it is that you really want, but making steps to change that. One of the things, I ended up closing my membership at the end of last year, not because it wasn't something that I wanted to do and to help people, but actually for me, I love helping people get results. And one of the things that I was finding is that my time was being taken in a way that wasn't enabling me to serve people in the ways that I wanted to. And so by taking something away has meant that I've been able to open up something. And I'm working on some really exciting things for this year that I know is going to have much bigger impact, much greater change that feels much more aligned to me. So it doesn't mean, I think also just because you've done something doesn't mean you have to keep doing it as well, but giving yourself that.
We've made decisions on offers that have closed, packages that have closed, services that have closed. People liked them, but they weren't lighting me up. They were feeling too hard behind the scenes, and life's too short. And so is the amount of time that I have and capacity I have in my business. And it's interesting because I think when you're surrounded by other people when they're doing really well, and then there's something in your business that isn't working for whatever reason, you can feel all sorts of levels of resentment. And that's, I think, when a lot of the overwhelm happens in the online space. But often it's those moments of decision, those moments of overwhelm that lead to a decision that actually can help you then really flourish in another area, because you become really clear on what you don't want. You don't want this feeling. You don't want this hardship. You don't want this struggle. You don't want this challenge. You don't want this feeling that I'm giving my time away and people aren't paying me enough, and the resentment that comes with some of that. So then once you've acknowledged those things, you can get serious about, okay, so what do I want and what's the best way to create it?
So that's really exciting, because as a business owner, you get to choose. Like, that's really exciting. It can feel quite scary when you have this blank canvas in front of you, but actually that is really exciting.
It is exciting. I started this year saying we're not doing any launches, we're not doing any big thing. And by the end of the week, once I'd got myself back in flow, I was like, actually, there are some things I want to create. There are some things I want to do. And it's my business, so I can go and do those things as long as they make sense for the rest of the business. And I think that's important as well, because what we do see a lot of is sometimes people will go and try something else and it's completely different. It's not even just a kind of offshoot of their normal offer. It's completely different field. And that can become challenging then. You alluded earlier to the fact that you were an athlete, and the mentalities around getting results. And obviously as an athlete, you want to get gold. Talk to us about how that impacts what you do in your business now and how that affects clients.
Yeah, great question. So, as an athlete, you want to be at the top of your game. You need to be to get those results. You need to be to perform. And I think when I started feeling burnt out, when I started feeling like something wasn't working, I wasn't getting the results that I wanted to, I started almost reconnecting back to who I was as an athlete and kind of going, actually, that was a point where I was achieving exactly what I wanted to. So why am I not now? And I think it's just, there's mindset in there, but also what I'd realized is that I was prioritizing potentially everything and everybody else over me. And I love to give, and I can give too much, which then, affects my energy and it affects my health. And that's one of the things that I definitely kind of need to work on is is my boundaries. And when I started really implementing boundaries and really looking at how and where my energy comes from, as well as even just on a single day, where my energy peaks, where my energy is naturally lower, I started making changes into how I worked. So I need to do exercise. It's my release. It's my thinking time. It's my time. But what I was finding is that I was doing all my client work during the day and then doing my exercise in the evening once the kids had gone to bed. So I'd given to everybody else for the rest of the day. Then it was my time. But actually, cardio massively affects me from a sleep perspective. And my endorphins kind of go through the roof, which is great, but not at the end of the day when you're going to sleep. So that would then have an impact on me the next day and not being able to show up in the ways that I wanted to. So as soon as I started introducing boundaries of saying, actually, I need to do my exercise first thing in the morning. And I decided that I was going to trial it and say, okay, from 10:30, I will then start doing client work. But before that time, that's my time to drop the kids off. And if that's been a bit of a rubbish time and they've been a bit narky, which, let's be honest, sometimes happens, I didn't want to then go straight from dropping the kids off straight into client work because my head wasn't in the right space. So by giving myself that space, my time to do the exercise that I wanted to, or to do some self-development, or even go for a coffee with a friend, then that's my time. And that's really precious for me. Yes, of course, there are times where, if I've got a client in Australia or Asia, I shift that boundary. That's fine. That's my choice. But actually, I'm way more productive. I get much more joy from my day's work. I can deliver at a much higher level. And my results started improving drastically to the point where I was kind of around the sort of 3 to 4K a month. Then that hit 5Ks. Then suddenly it became 6 figures. And I'm like, okay, there is definitely something in this. And then I started realizing that actually so many people in the online space, or even not in the online space, running businesses, were not focusing on actually what was needed for them to perform at their highest level. And so that's really what I try and teach, is that dialing into what you need, like what are your strengths most importantly. So many of us focus on the weaknesses and trying to improve those. But what happens if we actually lean into our strengths and really maximize on those? What energy do we need as business owners? How can we show up the best? How can we help other people get the best results? And when we reframe that, actually you start getting better results in your business and you feel more excited, you feel more energized and healthier and happier. And, I suppose in some ways that is my definition of success is feeling healthy, feeling happy, but having the financial return that gives me that flexible freedom and the choice to do things. So, that's kind of where it all comes from, really, of kind of right back from the beginning of kind of that sporting healthy habits and really sticking to them.
So you come from a lacrosse background, don't you? That was your...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I played lacrosse for England for 5 years. Yeah. Before I had a massive injury, which probably was my biggest mindset test at quite a young age of 21, I suppose, of kind of similar to you, really, of kind of learning how to walk again and, going through that process, the mindset that comes with that, the trust in
shift
yourself.
Of identity too. When you're talking about the analogy of sport and performance and how this affects work, I kept thinking, well, take for a runner, for example, you don't train to be an excellent runner just by running yourself ragged every single day. There are other things you need to do. There are times you need to rest. There are times you need to heal. There are times when you need to build muscle strength. There are times when your lungs need you to run at full pelt. But it's the way, it's everything, like you say, it's the holistic nature of how you quite literally perform as a human, as a body in business, because it isn't just about willpower. It isn't about just putting in the hours. It's about looking after yourself so that you can perform optimally. And I think that it's easy to not realize how much damage you're doing to yourself by going full throttle in your business.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, when we talk about accelerate your results, the mindset behind that is that you're pushing so hard that you are almost, you're fast forwarding as much as you can do in a really short space of time. But actually, and you can do that, but you can totally do it in your own time. Like it goes back to that version of success, I think. But it doesn't mean just because you're looking after yourself. In fact, the more you look after yourself, the more you look for positive things, the more you look for ways that give you energy to have that health. But also as part of that, as you said, is to notice when you need that rest. Building a business that allows you to do that, that's when you're going to accelerate your results. It's about having a business that works for you, not you working in your business all the time.
And this message is really important to you. And in fact, it's the title of your podcast, which is the Healthy Business Podcast, isn't it? So
that's right.
Listeners, you should definitely go over and check that out and go follow Sarah and find out much more about her and how she makes people really look at their business so that they can flourish going forward and not have that burnt out, frazzled feeling, but still get the financial results. So thank you so much for coming on today, Sarah. It's been great to have you here. And have you got any tips that you could share with the listeners as parting shots as we round off the show today, what are the first things they need to look at in order to accelerate their results?
Oh, thank you for having me, first of all. I have a little formula which I use, which is clarity plus strategy equals results. And I think when you get really clear on what it is that you want, how you want to run your life, how you want your business to run, what you want from your business, your personal goals, lifestyle goals, financial and business, all entwined, then you can start building that plan, that strategy to really enable you to hit those goals. And then you can be intentional. You can get really focused, laser focused on exactly what is going to make a difference to you. It helps you make decisions quicker. It helps you move forward and focus on getting those results that you really want to. So that would probably be the best thing to start with. But also recognizing that time, lifestyle and financial equilibrium is really, really key as well. So yeah, I've got a free guide that you can head over to my website on sarahcookemarketing.com/healthy business. You can access that on there. And that's 1-minute hacks to accelerate your results, which brings in all of these different elements of how you can have a high performance, as a person, but also from a business perspective as well.
Fabulous. Well, go and check out the show notes to grab a copy of that. And also, just as we wrap up, I want you to know that by the time this goes live on the podcast on Entrepreneurs Get Visible, my new podcast, Podcasting for Entrepreneurs, will also be live. So head over and find that show as well. It does what it says on the tin. It's much more about podcasting than this show. I hope you love it. Check it out. And we will see you back here next Monday for another episode of Entrepreneurs Get Visible.
Thank you for listening to Entrepreneurs Get Visible. To get your free checklist on how to raise your profile and to find out about our community, go to annaparkernaples.co.uk/get visible.